Hello and welcome to Wake Up with Dr. Cheryl, Wealth Transformation. The theme of our show is to raise the consciousness and healing your relationship with wealth and currency and apply unconditional love. Our special guest this evening is Roget Thomas. Roget Thomas is a captain of the Salty Lady. In capacity as president of GGFA, he works with the staffs and legislative members of both the California Assembly and Senate, in addition to working at a national level with staffs and congressional members on fishery and environmental legislation. At the state level, communicates and works with California Department of Fish and Game, the Fish and Game Commission, and the other regulatory entities in regards to regulations. As an advisor to the Pacific States Fishery Commission, he attends both in-state and annual meetings of the Commission, represents the Commission on an annual basis at the Washington level to meet with congressional staff and congressional members on fishery legislation, and works towards securing necessary funding to implement fishery programs for both California and the 5 western states that the Commission represents. This is the second segment with Roger and continuing our conversation from part 1.
It's a dredge channel so the large ships can come in. And then when they get to the end of that, there's what they call the San Francisco entrance buoys, 3 miles outside the main ship channel. And there's 3 traffic lanes, one going to the west, one going to the southwest, and one going straight to the south. And wherever the ships are going, they have to stay in that traffic lane, and there's both. And they use it for both ways, inbound and outbound. And they did a survey on the humpback whales where they were feeding, and somebody determined they thought it'd be better to move the traffic lanes where there hadn't been a lot reported.
Oh.
Well, time will tell, but the whales feed where the feed is, and if the feed moves, but you have no control, you can't tell the feed don't go in the traffic lanes.
Mother Nature.
That's right. So we'll find out what happens with that concept.
How long has this been going on?
They just started it.
Oh.
And they've extended the western traffic lane more and go out further and turn up or down further offshore. But really, we probably don't have very good records of what was going on offshore because not that many people go out there. The whales that they target mainly, I don't think, are the whales that migrate here. There are other whales in their particular ocean where they're accessing them.
Yeah.
The minke whales are the ones that they want, and we never have had very many minke whales. They're a much smaller whale than the ones that we look at.
Right, right. There's a lot a lot of information and a lot of concern.
Well, for all of us in all facets of the things that we deal with nature, you know, nature has to be treated right. Fishermen are probably the best conservationists because they want to have access to them either for catching them commercially to make a living, or like myself, providing access to anglers to go out, or providing access to whale watchers or bird watchers. And we all sincerely worry about the conservation of the forage that they feed on, ways to help reproduction of them. The salmon are the main fishery on the whole west coast, from Morro Bay north to the Columbia River. Our Sacramento and San Joaquin system supplies the fish that are caught there. That's the major contributor.
You mean in those areas that you just mentioned?
From Morro Bay, California, or Santa Barbara on the south, to the Columbia River entrance, the king salmon that are caught, the majority of them are Central Valley fish.
Oh, wow. I wasn't aware of that.
And our inland habitat prior to dams was 3,000 miles of habitat. Now it's 300 miles.
Oh.
And if we didn't have the hatcheries to sustain the population, we wouldn't be fishing, and you wouldn't be able to enjoy a nice fresh caught California salmon.
Yeah, wow. I know, having grown up, even though I'm fourth generation California, I grew up in Seattle area, Bellevue, and we had the best salmon.
Oh, sure you did. Yeah.
Copper River.
That's
Have you
right.
ever had
Yeah.
copper?
Oh,
Oh,
sure
my
have.
goodness, just melts in your mouth.
That's right.
And I know they're very protective up there, at least when I lived up there. I don't know what they're doing today.
Well, some of my background, I had the privilege of serving on the Pacific Fishery Management Council as a California voting member for 13 and a half years on the council. So, and each state has their own members on the council. So I'm very familiar with the regulations up and down the coast and the Washington area. In fact, the boat that I have now, I bought in 1978 because they had to severely cut back the seasons up there, and the fellows that owned commercial passenger fishing vessels, a lot of them got out of business, and that's where I bought my boat.
Yeah.
So I'm very familiar with their problems, and they're just like us. It's water and water transfers and other problems that we don't have. The share that catch the Indians get.
Oh, right.
Very politically motivated and that stuff up there. So that's different than our problems.
Right. Well, what do you think is a good solution? I mean, that's a loaded question, but because you're talking about a broad spectrum, but I think you had mentioned that salmon is one of the most important
it's an economically important. It's also the miner's canary.
The miner's canary.
Yeah. And most people probably know what that is, but when salmon aren't healthy, nothing in our resource is going to be healthy. And it's certainly all connected with just a massive bunch of different things that cause the problem. But our solution has been to try to work with the entities throughout the years, and I'm the president of the local Fishermen's Association, but I'm also the chairman of the board of an outfit called the Golden Gate Salmon Association, and we're a 501c3, and we have banquets and raise money that way, and we have some donors that have helped us with money, and we've been in operation for since December of '09, and we have raised a considerable amount of money, and we put together a science committee to study the inland problems that affect salmon. And we basically hired a scientist who had a great background with Fish and Wildlife Service in the Sacramento River and system. And then he left that job and formed his own company. And he has total expertise at diving in the river and seeing where all the problems are with predators, where the problems are with diversions and screens, and very knowledgeable guy. And we put together about 100 projects. Another thing we initially did was to go to all the 4 agencies, the main agencies that control our salmon stuff. And that's the Bureau of Reclamation. They're the people that have moved the water and do different things with the water. California Fish and Wildlife Service, Federal Fish and Wildlife, and NOAA, which runs the National Marine Fisheries Service and has the ESA responsibility. And we ask all their region managers if they would give us one of their salmon biologists to sit on our committee as advisors, and we told them what we were going to plan to do to come up with some projects. And we've been working on that and had numerous meetings, through a meeting a month and sometimes 2 or 3, and talking to different agencies. And we now have 26 projects that we've picked out of the first scattering of 100.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And we had the first tier, we picked 9 projects, and I'm happy to report that one of them has been almost all done. And we have 4 more out of the 9 now that the Bureau of Reclamation is going to provide us what money's needed in 2014 budget. And the other ones on our first tier are almost to that point. We need to do a little more science with them. And we've been,
so they require a certain amount of
well,
scientific study before they'll give you the money?
Well, you have to have the background. You have to convince the entities what we think the problem is, how we think we can correct it, how much it's going to cost, and what it'll produce. And we're to the point that one of them got done, and I can explain it real briefly. The city of Reading built a new bridge, and they had very fancy lights on it. And the lights were on the water at nighttime. Well, what happens when you have lights on the water? All the little fish get together and stay under the lights, and then the predators come through and eat them. So we, through Fish and Wildlife, California Fish and Wildlife, said, hey, that's great. We need to get those lights turned down. And they took an active part with the city, and they got it done. And we told them, well, thanks for taking our idea, and we thanked them for doing it, and we're taking credit for putting it together. But there's several other projects, like more gravel in a couple places, so the adults that come up can spawn. And
is this like up in the Delta area?
No, in the actual Sacramento River.
Oh, okay.
Some of the areas, because of the high flows, when they need to let water out of Shasta to get it down for the pumps take down south, you have high flows. If you have a real heavy winter, you have high flows. Well, because of the dam, there's no more gravel coming down. So you have to supplement the gravel so the fish have a place to spawn. So one or two of those are associated with that. There's another one that has to do with putting a electronic barrier up on an entrance to the river where the fish won't get derailed and go up the wrong place. So there's multiple ones like that, and our science committee, who I also sit on, has really been active. We come up with some good stuff, and we've been working with different politicians who support us in DC, and we're getting things done. We raise the money through our banquets, and we've got a couple grants from people that are really concerned and helping us along, and we've hired an executive director, and we're moving in the right direction. So if anybody's interested,
I was just going to say, what can you say to ask our viewers? What can they do to help out in this?
Our viewers could go on our website, Golden Gate Salmon Association, and
I'll put that on the credit.
And they could take a look at what we're doing, the projects. We're getting them all on the site, and they certainly can look at what we're doing if they're ardent fishermen or conservationists. If they'd like to make a donation to us, it's a 501c3. It'd be tax deductible, and we have a lot of good folks that other people know that are on our board of directors. Our president, I was one of the founding members, but we have 10 or 12 founding members. They're all well-known people. And we're moving ahead, and we're doing good things.
Getting back to the salmon, the gravel issue up in the Sacramento River, so would you have to contract out a contractor to do that, or how does that?
Well, we're putting a project together, or a recommendation together for the project, with the agreement of the 4 entities that are on our advisory panel. And the Bureau of Reclamation has engineering, has the contacts, has the way to do outreach. They have gravel.
Oh, okay.
And we can buy gravel if they didn't have it. They have all the mechanics to help us accomplish that. And we have worked with several politicians that are emphasizing to them that this is needed, please help us. And I won't go into the workings of all that, but you have to have some political influence to get things done.
Yes.
And throughout the years, we've all utilized our local representatives and gone up the ladder, and a lot of them have gone up the ladder.
But don't you think we're on the edge of a crisis, though? I mean,
well, I think salmon have lived in a crisis situation, And if it wasn't for all of us throughout the years being committed to trying to help them, especially on habitat and water issues, we probably wouldn't be sitting here talking about it today.
Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, that's what was the impetus for me to invite you to come on here, because it's such an important,
Well,
it's important for all of us.
well, we don't want to lose that resource.
No, yeah.
Not just from the financial aspect of it, but
No.
from a historic level, and such a sustainable entity. Those fish, all they need is a little water, and they need a little water both ways, coming in and out. And need the right habitat, and they'll do their thing.
Well, I'm sure that there's even more information that you can share with us.
Yeah, a lot of different things I've been involved with, and fortunate enough, and I've seen, you know, the San Joaquin River, getting back to when I lived in Gilroy. Friant Dam was built, I believe, in 1945, if my memory's right, somewhere in the mid-40s. And I was a kid 11 years old or 12 years old. And after they built it and they shut the water off, there wasn't enough water for the returning fish. There was like this much water coming down the river. And the San Joaquin run was a fabulous run of fish. It was one of the largest run of size of fish, 30, 40, 50, 60-pound fish. And I remember as a kid, living in Gilroy, my uncle says, okay, we're gonna go over by Fresno, and he says the state has opened the river up where you can go over there and harvest the fish because they're going to die anyway, and you can spear them. And I remember looking at those fish like monster salmon, and that run practically went to nothing because they shut the water off. Filled up Friant Dam, and Friant Dam is used now for the Friant Water District, obviously, and all the cities that take water out of it. But a lot of conservation groups, without going into names, got together, and they fought for about 20 years and got some legislation together, and they're trying to bring that river back now. And they've watered it now. They had a little bit of water, enough to sustain some fish last year, and they brought fish in from some of the other streams below where the dam is. We still had a little remnant run of little fish, but not the massive run we had before. So that conservation thing is going on. But of course, when you get into drought years, then you got another tough situation.
Yeah, stressful. And how do you deal with that? And we as humans need to be educated on that.
That's right.
To, you know, we all need to work in tandem together.
Well, desalinization certainly should be pushed.
And exactly what is that?
Well, what I talked about earlier was the arid countries like the Middle East use desalinization.
So in LA, they have started
they're
that?
starting one in Southern California, and I'm not sure the exact location. It's in the LA area.
Right.
And, you know, you could do that in every
You know, it's
port up and down
amazing
the
to
coast.
me. Yeah, it's amazing to me that they haven't done that. You know, with the crisis that we've had, that they haven't done that
Well,
before.
there's been a lot of people opposed to it because of the problems it caused in their little particular community or something. Not looking at the whole ballgame.
Yeah, right.
Looking at their little deal.
Not looking out for the whole.
That's right.
Which happens to be the biggest problem in our world's issues anyway.
That's true. That's true.
On many different subjects, but you know, we're here to talk about your situation and the conservation. And I just know, in having grew up learning how to fly fish, I know that there's been a crisis in the streams for many years. I mean, you can't find natural trout anymore. You know, we used to go to the Stanislaus River, and you know, you could get see fish all over, but not anymore.
Well, there's just too many uses for the water. Too many people wanted to tear out all the habitat on the sides of the rivers and the streams, and the little fish don't have a place to hide and survive from the predator fish.
And I think it's just lack of education, you know. It's really, you know, a lack of education as far as the humanity around the areas, or generally speaking.
Well, nowadays people are too busy being on the internet and the blogs and the TVs and... everything else.
Yeah, well, that is a big part
It's
of
an educational process. You know,
Yes.
kids need to be out in the wild and out and do things. And
right.
you know, our fleet has taken kids out. I've taken kids out, and I really enjoy having a father or mother bring their child and come and go fishing. You know, and a lot of the problems are probably associated with some of our social problems with too many unwed mothers and all the other things that are going on.
Or absent fathers. I mean,
absent fathers. That's right.
I mean, there's a lot that feeds into
Or money
that.
gets into the picture too. They have to establish priorities to get by, and it's tough.
Well, that's what I talk about on my show because, you know, waking up to it isn't just all about money. It's wealth that's all around us, you know, especially in this area, you know.
Well, we have a lot of wealth if you respect the natural resources
Absolutely.
and utilize it.
That's the key.
Yeah.
That's really the key of having you on here is to wake up to that because if we just honor and respect the natural resources that we have and take care of it, it'll last. You know, to keep conserving it and it'll last. So I'm very happy that you can come and share this because I think a lot of people need to be re-educated on it. You know, even for myself. I mean, I'm just learning, you know, some of the things that you're talking about, and it's when you're educated, then you can understand, you know, how important it is to conserve.
That's right. It is.
And
super.
It's the survival of our humanity, really. And if we don't take care of it now, and it's already, I think, on the edge of crisis, and I know that you've been doing a lot with all your associations and everything, but, you know, it's a crisis, and we need to respect that.
Well, what we need to do, our association, the fishermen belong to the Fishermen's Association, and the folks at GGSA, and there's a lot of other organizations. We need to learn to support those people because they're all out doing things not just for themselves, but for the community and the resource.
Well, it's our survival.
That's right.
It's our, you know, our balance with nature and our survival. So thank you for everything that you're doing.
Well, I've done it all my life, basically. I was trained by my uncle to appreciate what we were doing or what we were killing or catching, and you had to eat it, and it was part of life. He was a farmer in Gilroy, and his grandfather was a farmer, and you lived on the land. Yeah. And you lived on what it provided. And
when you live like that, I mean, I wasn't raised on a farm, but I did appreciate the streams, and you know, my father, we
had a stream right behind the house, and the steelhead had come up, and then in the spring I'd get to catch the little trout.
But it's important to be exposed to that.
That's right.
You know, to appreciate our dance with nature and you know what the survival.
To communicate with nature.
Yes, and be at peace with nature. I mean, that's what it's all about, I think, in our human existence. So, I think it's wonderful that you have been able to share this and what you're doing.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I'm happy to be here. Yeah.
Is there any other words of wisdom that you can share with the viewers before
Well, you know, I still get back to the fact that we all have to get by, and we'd be much better off if we got by and nurtured all the good things around us and helped the good things around us, and it would be better for all of us.
Yes. Amen. Thank you so much for being here and coming the distance that you have, and we'll see you again.
Good. Happy to be here.
Thank you, Roger. I'll leave you with this. Never give up on your purpose and passion, and even if you don't know what that is, work with integrity and have a positive attitude wherever you work. And please, first and foremost, with your family and friends, be grateful for what you have, who you are, and where you have come from, and be grateful for your freedom. And eat healthy. Good nutrition feeds the mind and your body temple, and don't forget to keep moving your body by working out. Feed your spirituality with meditation and prayer, with unconditional love, and love yourself unconditionally, which means stop judging and criticizing yourself and others, and share your abundance and wealth with others. Thanks for watching. Please support Marin TV that brings these messages. Remember, when fear knocks, let faith answer the door. Money is like love. It kills slowly and painfully the one who withholds it, and enlivens the other who turns it on his fellow man, by Khalil Gibran.